Thanks for tuning in, and sorry for the delay. We are live here at the Raptor headquarters in Aarhus with Anders speaker.
Yeah, thank you for having us here. Likewise,
I was about to say thanks for inviting, but
Yeah.
I invited myself because I was here and thought that it would be a great opportunity.
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry for the small delay. We had some technicalities with the camera. That's always the case. You know, when you join a Google Hangout online meeting, it's like, check, can you hear me? And there's always some problem. But I hope you're here, else the recording will be sent out as well, and you'll get that. Now that you're watching live, you have the opportunity to ask questions in the chat. That should be working, and we will handle those questions after the end of our live talk. If there's some questions and we do not have the time to answer them, we will send them out and answer on an email afterwards, and maybe with a bit more context and so on.
Sure.
But we decided to go slideless.
Yeah.
So no slides.
No slides, and obviously, if we can share some slides afterwards about where we maybe go a bit deeper.
Definitely. But we decided that there's too many slides out there, so let's have a good chat here and give you an idea what CDP and data acquisition is all about.
Sure.
So the first time I met Anders was actually by a call, and I started with Scratch 2.5 years ago because I thought gamification data acquisition was super interesting, but I didn't know a lot necessarily about it. So I did some research, desktop research, Google, and I was looking for some experts here in Denmark about it. And several people pointed at you already back then, Anders. So I took my phone and asked you a lot of questions about cookie. Is the cookie dying? Back then, the cookie was dying tomorrow, and it's basically still dying tomorrow. But you talked a lot about server-side tracking, the impact of the cookie, and it's very related to CDPs. What's happened since then?
A lot happened. I think that a lot of especially our customers have grown into seeing the value of the first party data, and obviously that drives our innovation as well. So this is a space where there's happening a lot. I'd say still growing and maturing and finding its place. But I think that it's a really interesting area, and it's an area where a lot can differentiate and maybe get an advantage towards the customers because or their competitors. I don't think necessarily that the third-party cookie will be deprecated tomorrow. Because
that's a fancy word for dying.
Yeah, exactly. It's dying tomorrow, but it will die at some point. I think that Google is maybe the last.
They're holding the fort like Lord of the Rings. Basically.
But all other platforms where our users and customers are and interact digitally with us, they have more or less blocked third party cookies. But obviously Google is a very, very big player in this. They already also told many times that now is the day, and now we're starting. Actually, they started doing it this year, but now they paused it again.
Exactly.
And that's really interesting to see where that goes.
And what about, because I remember back then, and maybe I remember wrongly because it was 2.5 years ago, we had the first conversation about this, that moving some of the cookie settings to the more sort of server-side cooking and working a bit with that. Is that still going on? Is that a temporary solution, or is that actually a strategy you can put in place to sort of get more of the data that is sort of being shut off for?
I would definitely do that. I would do that now because that will not be killed or deprecated, which term you want to prefer, and because I think that's a play for the long run. I would still use third-party cookies because it's easy. There's a lot of data that way, but I'll start building my infrastructure with both third-party and third-party data. So I'll start with the cookieless part because it takes time. It takes a lot of time. It's not something that you do tomorrow, and then you have a complete data set that is a lot of identifiers towards all interactions that you have. This is something that will take half or a full year. So whenever the third-party cookie is deprecated, you want to be ready to continue and do your performance marketing activities based on that first-party data. So I'd do both. I would keep my third-party data tracking because why not? And then I would start at the first-party data foundation to
prepare for sort of
and that will not deprecate. That's based on email addresses, first-party cookies that are necessary for a website to run. You cannot deprecate a first-party cookie because then you're basket will not work on the work. So I'll go the first party data way together with the third party for as long as I can to make sure that I collect and use as much as the data that I can.
Cool. And now we jump straight into a lot of the data conversations, but I think we also need to cover for everyone who's not so familiar with a CDP, and Raptor is obviously one of the leading CDPs out there. Can you just dumb it down on us? What is a CDP and why should people care about that?
Yeah, I'll try, because this is not.
We only have, and I have plenty more questions.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of takes. There's not. This is a CDP. This is not a CDP. But at least in our space, and where we see that the most important disciplines that a CDP should handle for our customers, typically retail, e-commerce, and B2Bs, there is a data collection part. You need to have the right setup to make sure that you can collect the data that you want. You also might need to model some of it, because if you, for instance, have a really good gamification partner, but you started in one department saying that these are female, and in another you can answer these are women, then you want to make sure that you can unify. And this is just a very basic example, but there are lots of those where you need to format your data in various ways. And I think that if you look under the hood on the CDPs, that's one of the functionalities that you want to make sure that there's.
So using different description as a very basic example for the same thing. But using different descriptions, sort of merging those into one category.
Yeah, so if female transform to woman, or so you need to, on the data in, you need to have that possibility to make sure that this does not become a very big IT project, because there are so many formats from all the different systems that you want to gather data from, to make sure that you can unify them in a way that you can work with them as building blocks for all the things that you want to have insights into or you want to activate.
So is it fair to me to say, and you can just say no, but a CDP in very simple terms is an aggregator of data that sort of helps it be untangled and make it useful?
That's at least one of the disciplines that I think that it should be capable. That's the ingest, the collection of data. There are some things that you need to make sure, but also the unify part, right? So you want to make sure that whenever I click through an email and I see that this is my server cookie or first party ID together with my email address, that these are linked together. So this is something that you need to have running in real time. A lot of strategies to make sure that you recognize as many of your users with multiple IDs. And you want to update that a lot, because you want to know that when I, for instance, go to this web shop and I put these things to the basket and I leave it, then you want to know that this is me and this is my email address, so that I can send that to my email marketing system and say, hang on, you need to send this reminder email, for instance. And this is some things that you need to have running. And the last part obviously is how, and this is where as I just briefly were touched upon, is where the value is on the activation part. The activation in insights to see who are our good customers, who are our bad customers, what kind of traits does our good customers have, what should we look for, how should we communicate, what should we evolve, but also the bad customers, obviously, what kind of customers should our competitors be allowed to take, the returners and all the stuff. But also the activation part, I think that's key to make sure that if you have the foundation, you collect the data, you unify it in real time. You also want to have all these marketing automation strategies and in ads and stuff like that to make sure that you maximize your ROI, return on investment on the existing marketing stack.
So it sounds to me that there's a lot of different aspects of the CDP, but also the sort of tech tool stack. And one of the things that we also promised for this live chat to cover is a bit on where on the maturity scale, like from our point of view with Scratcher, where we are talking about gamification, both from data acquisition, whether it's new customers and permissions, or it is returning customers and updating consents and loyalties. I think it's always interesting to cover sort of when is a company, like let's talk about a pure player as an example, when are they ready? What size do they need to have? Do they need to have a certain amount of consents, a certain amount of traffic? when sort of the maturity level ready for someone to consider implementing? Because for me, just from a completely green standpoint, a lot of the things you mentioned, I'm thinking, okay, that's a lot of different people and technologies, and that will take quite some time to integrate.
Yeah.
But what's sort of the steps where you would say now you have enough data? Like, if I should just formulate it in a different way, the first step is, of course, to acquire data.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people say, okay, now I have a lot of data. How do I use it? And that's the point there. When I think, okay, that's probably around there a bit sooner that you should have started those conversations. But let me hear it from yourself.
Yeah, okay. So there's also very different ways to say. I would start working with first party or customer data now. If I were sitting at one on the other side.
So it's never too late to start with that. If
yeah,
you haven't done
but you're right. When do you start utilizing a CDP, for instance? Because that comes with a cost, no matter what way you look, to actually do that. But we have customers that where there are two people and they succeed with this on the organizational level. But two things: you need to have a certain size of the permission base. Definitely. I don't have a specific number.
Are we talking thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands?
Probably nearer the hundreds of thousands than the tens of thousands, I would say. And if you don't have that, then you should have a clear strategy to how are you going to scale that pretty fast, because it's also pretty cool to also start thinking about these strategies before, because then you can make sure you have the right consent, you ask about the right things, you do that. So for instance, that could be obviously an advantage, but I would say this is about a certain size. You need to have the buy-in also from the board, have the right organization. So I'm not talking about 10 people, but maybe 1-2 people that have the right things to do that, but also can get some things prioritized within IT and stuff like that. And
so sort of the journey to becoming a modern digitalized player on the market, it starts with acquiring a lot of data, for instance, using gamification and other assets.
Definitely.
And then, of course, later on in the journey, when you have a critical amount of data at such a mass where it becomes maybe hard to structure it by themselves in CRMs or ESPs alone.
Yeah, and maybe you found out that you have all these different data sources in the ERP, in the CMS, in the marketing automation
with
tool.
Different categories.
You have maybe a data warehouse where you have a lot of gamification, where you know a lot of stuff. And how do we actually unify that? Where's the truth and where is the 360 view of our customers? There's a lot of online, offline cases, a lot of cases where you want to sequentially calculate attributes based on all of these different data sets that you want to actuate. And the only way you can do that without this becoming a very complex setup, and where you can actually give this tool to a marketing department and execute, I'd say that is through these 3 steps that you ingest, unify, and have
that's input.
From these data sources and unify that.
So if I have to put you on the spot in order to what data would be the most valuable for clients, how would you sort of briefly categorize that?
In our space, retail, e-commerce, and B2B, I'd say that the most important data source is the behavioral data. What do these customers do? And probably the most important is, what do they buy? When do they buy? What do they buy? From where do they buy? It's telling a lot about the customers, the CLV part, for instance, who are good, bad customers, their recency frequency modeling. When should we continue talking about to our customers, and about what?
And we were just having a conversation just before that we started about, let's say that someone could find a pan, a non-stick pan, by Googling, and they can enter sort of that buyer flow. They can check out or not check out, be retargeted or not, and sort of enter that flow, eventually buy it, and there's a data that will sort of be pushed in the system. But another option would be that you sort of, someone want to research a bit more about what pan type is there, like is it cast, is it non-stick, is it hex-clad, what kind of pan is it that they favorite, and going through some interactive content such as a a test or a guide, or
Definitely.
what pan would fit your style. Do you cook a lot of fish? Do you make wok dishes? What style of cooking do you have? That is another kind of zero-part data that could fit perfectly well into a recommendation engine later on as well.
Yeah, definitely, and into the CDPs. And the more information and insight that you have, the more personalized, the more relevant you can be. And do we see that personalization and relevance gain higher click rates, conversion rates, times average order baskets? So
you
definitely
think you see that?
Yeah,
you do see that.
We see that a lot. We actually just did a study on not a study, that would be too much too. So when we looked at hundreds of millions of emails,
that's quite a lot.
That's quite a lot, and we see that when you have it relevant and timed, for instance, instead of a bulk email, it's typically 1/10 of the unsubscribe rate, and also the turnover per mail is many times higher than way. So definitely that is important. So if we can start asking our customers, what do you like? What are they gonna buy next? That's not something that we can see in the behavior. That's something that we can use to actually start working with our customers in quite a direction. And I find that part very interesting, and something that maybe will become a become a thing to actually start leveraging the customer relationship that you have and building the customer relationship. We're talking a lot about loyalty and customer clubs and stuff like that. And I think that gamification or these interactions that you can give this way or could have a big role in that, because what is loyalty? What is meaningful interactions, right? And how can you have some strategies to be around? I think that's important to give something back to the customers, but also to.
I think you're definitely right there, Anders. We've also seen with our customers and our collaborators that when they implement sort of loyalty programs, customer clubs, and they give something back that are not just discounts or content, but they actually give something back, and that could be a prizes, or it can be a quiz or something fun and meaningful. There's both the data that comes out of it, but also the soft values as well.
Completely agree.
I think that time is running. We also did start a little bit later. We can probably, let's take just 3 more minutes of conversations. And then if there are any questions, has there been any questions asked? Not yet. Okay, so we can take the questions. Remember, please, if you're sitting and listening, you can write a question in the chat, or else you can send a question to me or Anders afterwards. We can distribute that after the event. But you have a really good case of how a CDP could prove its worth, just to sort of formalize or make it a bit more concrete, and use all of the data that we've been talking about.
Yeah. So obviously, let's go to fast forward. These customers have implemented the full CDP. What we advise our customers to start doing is to add these remarketing audiences to their paid media channels. So, for instance, if you have
the CDP creates segments,
the exact same segments that you have in your third-party data,
and so on,
and then just add them to the existing campaigns, because we see a flunk in the performance on the ROAS, for instance, in that regard, because now you also start interacting with the iOS and the Apple devices again, so you add something to those remarketing pools that have been gone for them for a long time, and this is a very easy way to get started. But also start sending way more segmented emails. We're talking about a bulk versus trigger-based send-out ratio with our customers, where we want to move them from bulk send-outs that they typically send out weekly to actually start penetrating their customer base through these triggered mails when they are in market, when they are relevant for them, and maybe get that frequency throughout a year instead of every week, because we see many times higher turnover per email when we send it out when they are in market and it's triggered. Makes probably good sense. But also the unsubscribe rate is way lower, and you have to look at a lot of our customers buy leads. So it comes with a cost. Obviously, every time you send an email, and if you can reduce that cost and you can sell them again year after year, then I think that's a good business case. And so that would be the two places that I would start if I were to invest in a CDP. And obviously the insights part, the CFOs love it. They can start looking at a real-time based CLV on segments, and how do we actually increase the CLV on our customers.
But I think all CFOs in the current market, they really love to get some insights on how the investments of CDP or other tools actually bears fruit. We are just told that we have one question here, so we'll just answer this one question, then I think we'll round it off.
Lene Sømod, she asks, how do you see the CDP potential for an organization that is not in e-commerce or B2B?
I think that's a question for you, Anders.
Maybe repeat in the mic.
So we get a question about the CDP potential for not a business that is in e-commerce or in the B2B space.
I think there's definitely a potential. I would not look for a Raptor CDP. Sorry, sales team. But as a CDP can be a lot of things. There's definitely many of the same use cases that you see in e-commerce, but they need to maybe be differently handled.
So a CDP is specialized to different industries. So like what you're saying,
not necessarily.
E-commerce
We also have
we
also have not e-commerce customers, but customers that are very maybe not in the e-commerce space, but by looking at how do e-commerce do flows and activate customers and work with digital transactions. So it was also wrong to say that, but the same collection, unify, and activation of data are the same if you're driving performance marketing or insights in other channels, such as there could be insurance or
Perfect. Perfect. But I think that's about all the time we have. I want to thank Anders from Raptor for a good
thank you,
a good conversation.
Thank you for having us in this format.
It was a pleasure. And Nikolaj Scratcher, we are back the 19th of June with another webinar about the retail insights. If you have any questions, please reach out to Anders from Raptor or myself from Scratcher, and we'd be happy to have a chat. Maybe we can help you. Have a good day. Bye,
everyone.